Hey Nappers, it's me, Wild Neptune. This video talking about the ending of the last World Arena season and what it means for possibly the future of Epic 7 and what Smilegate has to do to keep the format from just collapsing on itself. Before that though, be sure to like, comment, subscribe for all Epic 7 and other games too. Now, let's get into the video. If you don't know, every season, after it's ended, Smilegate will post a infographic about the stats about the World Arena season from the champion through legend ranks, so only players who are reasonably good at the game will influence this list here, and I'll just read some of this for you, paraphrase a little bit here. So, this season witnessed a significant shift in drafting meta compared to previous seasons, primarily due to the introduction of new heroes, which had a profound impact on the game. So they say. Now the heroes on the list here are Ahmed and Architect Laika, who I would say Ahmed is definitely a meta hero. Architect Laika, not as much. She was seen a lot right after she was buffed. Now she's more of a dangerous tech choice, last pick that a lot of certain comps have to worry about. But Ahmed is one of the most busted units that the game has ever released, and they say they have emerged as meta picks, amplifying the power of speed contested compositions. Well, yeah, and these compositions were already strong to begin with. Meanwhile, popular heroes from previous seasons like Xavier Aiden, Faithless Litica, and Edward Elric continue to maintain their prominence. So, they say, hey, guess what? We have a shift in the meta due to new heroes that all they did was make it so that an already good strategy became even better and more dominant. And meanwhile, popular heroes from previous metas are still also good. So, what has changed, Smilegate? Okay, now they say, as a result, stalling compositions previously centered around Unbind Out Airworld lost its dominance. Well, yeah, because the meta is so aggressive that it's really hard to stall now. The current meta places a emphasis on flexible compositions, resulting in increased value of versatile heroes like Conqueror Lilius, Media Cowick, and Apocalypse Ravi. 3 more evergreen heroes that have been basically top tier ever since they were released, or at least ever since their buff. Further adjustments made to Lacerate Crow improved their performance and contributed to further shifts in the meta. Again, what shifts? Like, this whole paragraph here. Smilegate is like, patting themselves on the back end. We did a good job. We changed the meta. Are you playing the same game as the rest of us? Every single player who has played a lot of World Arena will tell you that all that has changed is that certain units are now better, right? But the way that drafts are done and the way that strategy are, like the dominant types of teams are still relatively the same. Matches are still playing out in almost the same ways. Because for the past 2 seasons, there have been no changes. Now, Frenzy is slightly different for this current season. Now, how much will this have an effect on the meta? I don't know. Like, way back in the Golden Boys meta, when Frenzy changed for that, it basically killed Golden Boys. There was too much damage going around, so you could not reliably tank down as much like you did back then. Can they do this with another Frenzy change? Yes, of course they can. They can definitely make a Frenzy change that affects the meta in a big way. But I think that they have to have significant unit rebalancing before we get, or at least some counters to certain units, before we get a more healthy type of meta. Anyway, let's go over the actual infographic here. So here we have the pre-bans. Now, Lure is on top with 62.2% of all pre-bans. This is ridiculous. considering that she's over 20% higher than the next highest pre-ban unit, which is Conqueror Lilius. The rest here, Angel of Light, Ahmed, Belly, and Zio. The heroes you expect to see on the list, right? No real surprises here. I would say that seeing, like, Leica, it's kind of interesting. Anyway, going down, you have a comparison of last season and the season before last season, where Lua went down from 66.7 to 62.2. Now, what is the cause of this drop-off? Well, part of it is new units being introduced, mainly Ahmed. Personally, my pre-bans used to be Lua and Conqueror Lilius, and when Ahmed was released, after some testing, stuff like that, I concluded I'd rather ban Ahmed than Lua. Now, I'd rather ban all three of them, but I do feel like, personally, I can combat Lua more readily than Ahmed at the moment. Now, this does not mean that I think Lua's fine. She's not. She's definitely still too strong. And will continue to be too strong unless changes are made. Now, anyway, I don't know what a healthy pre-ban rate is that would be indicative of a hero that is more or less balanced, at least as far as like the best heroes go, right? Of course, stronger heroes are going to be pre-banned more often. I just know it is not 62.2%. This is not indicative of a balanced hero. In the Dominable season, Lua continued to maintain a position as the most frequently pre-banned hero, just like in previous seasons. However, there are notable changes in the overall pre-banned structure compared to before. New additions to the top 10, like Ahmed, new hero, Ikarina, new hero, and Politis. Politis, because she's really good against Ahmed, the closest thing to a counter she has, and also really good against a lot of the popular cleave in the meta at the moment. Meanwhile, Bellion, who in second after Lua's previous season, experienced a 10% drop rate in pre-ban rate. Yes, and they say here because of Last Rider Crow, which I do agree with. Last Rider Crow really hurt Bellion quite a bit. As the meta shifted, did not shift. It's always been like this, just more so now. To speed contested compositions, the importance of pre-banning heroes capable of effectively countering compositions such as Zero, Icarina, and Politis significantly increased. Well, not just because they're good against speed contesting compositions, because they're just some strong anti-cleave in general. Why do I think this drop rate happened? Well, again, a lot of it was Ahmed just taking up some of the Lua pre-ban rate. You get down here, and you'll see the pre-ban rates for early, mid, and late stages. And you see Lua starts off really, really, really high. And Ahmed's here. Right? But then you see Lua drop from like 68.6 to 61.9, a little bit lower to 60.5. Now, why is this exactly? Are people getting used to fighting Lua? I don't think so. What I think it is that now, this is anecdotal, and talking to other people, and watching other people talk about it too, that people were just tired. They were bored of fighting basically the same things over and over again. They were like, I don't want to fight, say, AOL. I don't want to fight Conqueror Lilies. I don't want to fight Bellion, Ikarina. I don't want to fight Aiden. I'm going to ban those guys, and instead, let Lua free for a little bit, right? It'll be something different. It might suck, but at least it sucks in a different way. That's what I think happened. I think they're choosing a lesser, sometimes, you can argue the greater of two evils. First picks. Keep in mind here that to be picked, you have to be not pre-banned. Which is why Lua is only picked 5% of the time. Because she's pre-banned in like 60% of matches. Which means that Lua is either first picked or pre-banned in 66.6% of matches, basically. Now, Conqueror Lilius is at a 30% first pick rate, which is staggering considering that she's pre-banned in over 40% of matches. So, in half of all matches which is not pre-banned, she's first picked. This is an insanely high amount, considering, like, the difference in, you know, disparity here. And again, we have this little comparison here where, oh, look at this. Conquerlilius jumped from 30% to 30% from 20%, and Arrow went down quite a bit. Why? Because the meta got so aggressive that it became a lot harder to use units like Arrow and the like. There's really not much to say here, other than that this is not something you want to have in your game if you truly care about balance. We have top 20 picks for all stages, so the pick at all, they're on this list, and Spectre Tenebria is at the top of the list. This might be a little bit surprising, but considering that she has been often touted as the best DPS that the game has for a while now, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. Now, you notice here that the only real defensive knight on the list is Arrowell, and the only healer is Destina. Really, everything else is either aggro, a cleanse, a cleave, or a counter to cleave, or at least a counter to one of the other units here, like Zahak. Is he inherently a busted unit? No, he's here because he's really good against Aiden. Is Landon, like, really super strong right now? I don't really think so. I think she's a good unit, but why is she here? Because she can hit Spectre, and she's pretty good against large-sided Crow. Do I necessarily think that someone like Destina is very good right now? She's okay. She's really just here because she's a very strong cleanse against stuff like AOL. That's what it is. The top 20 here is basically like a lot of the units you'll see in a fight, right? And just because, you know, your last pick is something not on this, doesn't mean that the meta is actually diverse. No. I'm not doing math right here, but there is a very, 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 very high chance that your matches have 1, 2, probably like 5 of these units represented here, you know, or at least pre-banned or post-banned. They have this little chart here again, shows the differences here in pick rate, stuff like that, and win rate, which is kind of important. And notice the Spectre has a sub 50% win rate. Now, this is not that surprising, as I believe she's had a sub 50 for a little bit now. Now, don't get me wrong, she's still very, very strong. I do feel like part of this lower than 50% win rate, and I myself am guilty of this, is that people try to force her into situations where she's not quite the best in. So I do think that she's stronger than this win rate lets on. What is ridiculous, though, is that Conqueror Lilius has a 52.5% win rate, and this is as a hero that is first picked. And then you compare this to say, no, people are going to say, hey, look at Ikarina, 52.7% win rate. Is she more busted than Conqueror Lilius? Of course, Neptune's not going to complain about her, because Neptune's a slower player, and he likes Karina. Now, I'm not going to complain about Karina. Why? Because Karina is a counter pick. She's only really going to be picked in cases where she is good against the other team. Conqueror Lilius is a first pick. A pick that the other player has all draft to think about, and then ultimately ban Conqueror Lilius. That's just how it is. Now, Cleave players, they're like, oh, I hate Ikarina. She doesn't let me play the game. You know what else doesn't let you play the game? Being cleaved and having no options but to get lucky on speed rolls. That's why units like Ikarina, Belly, and Politis exist, so that players who are less lucky than you outside of actual fighting can have a chance against it. So, I complained a lot in this video, but I'm also going to make some suggestions, things that might change and help things go along a little bit better. And probably the biggest contentious point is going to be nerfs. Should they happen? I myself think they have to, especially since things that they've tried to do to counter like Lua, Conqueror Lilius, and the like have not worked. And why have they not worked? Because they're so scared of nerfing things, make things too strong, that everything they do is a half measure, basically. Like, take a look at somebody like Requiem Rowana. A unit so bad, people call her the worst ML 5-star ever. I'm at pity. I can get her whatever I want to, but I'm not pulling her right now because she's, not good. Now, what if she gets buffed, right, after she leaves and she comes good? I feel like an idiot because I didn't pull her. This doesn't feel good. It happened with Kayron, right? Is Kayron gonna get buffed eventually, become good? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Leica too, right? Leica was buffed and she went from, becoming, a little bit subpar to suddenly a very good unit. It's just this guessing game within the guessing game, which doesn't feel good for anybody. Now, you can argue that, oh yes, okay, that's true. It also doesn't feel good when your best unit gets nerfed because they were really, really strong. Now, the truth is that the reason why units are not nerfed is more for money reasons on Smilegate's part versus the players becoming upset. Let's not get this twisted here, right? Not nerfing is clearly a money-based decision in this case. Now, what else can they do? Well, they can buff units, right? There are a lot of 4-star units that are kind of not used. I'm just gonna, randomly go down here and boom! This unit right here. Oh, no, not this one. Right here. Like, let's say they buff Celestia Mercedes in a way where she's suddenly really good against, Conqueror Lilius for whatever reason. I don't know, right? Nobody's gonna care, nobody remembers she exists besides me, because she's one of my favorite heroes in the game, right? And maybe also another hero they can buff too to be really good against her, right? Like, buff Shadow Rose, become good against Conqueror Lilius too. If she has 2 really, really good counters to her, she's suddenly less viable because, you can just, pick these 2 units here. Of course, they have to be better in more cases, they have to be generically good too, but it is something that they could do. Now, another big change I think they can make is not as related to balancing it all, more the format and the grind of World Arena. Going for even Emperor rank takes a long time in a season. And I also think seasons are too long, but not getting really into that. So, Smilegate has said they want to get new players into World Arena, make it more accessible. The problem is, with the level of, power creep and people's gear getting better overall, it's actually harder now to get into World Arena. Now, there are a couple of big changes I think they should make to the format. One of them is adding rank floors. So, other MMR-based games like Hearthstone, Teamfight Tactics, and the like, they have rank floors where once you reach a certain rank in the season, you cannot drop below that rank. Because it's demoralizing when, let's say, you're a new player and you just reach gold, right? And then you go on a 10-loss streak and suddenly you're in, bronze again. It doesn't feel good for a player for that to happen. Now, to myself, this happens all the time, right? I'll hit a new rank, and then, I'll, just go on a massive loss streak. It's just the way it is, right? But for players who don't really understand that this is just what happens, this can cause them to quit, right? So having these goals that they can reach slowly and, not immediately get pushed back down, I think is a very good thing psychologically for players. Another thing that these games have is that they have a separate MMR system once you hit the highest rank. So, Legend, I I forget what it's called in Teamfight Tactics. Like in auto chess, it was queen, right? So, and this means that yes, you cannot drop out of legend, which means that at the bottom of legend, yes, you have a lot of players running like dumb compositions, right? Maybe even like level 5 battles. Okay, now is this gonna make it easier for like high emperor players to sneak into legend? Whatever the threshold is gonna be late in the season. Yes, it is, right? There'll be a lot more players finishing in legend, because of this. Now, should this matter for like balancing cases? No, because at top of legend, and you can keep the legend frame, right? Like to be top 100 legend only, right? Just change the name of it, right? Maybe have like, another, cheaper legend frame you can make, okay? But that top 100 is still going to be playing the strongest things possible, right? They're not going to be like experimenting with memeing as much. So it's not going to affect the top of the top, which is how things should be balanced. Things should be balanced starting at the top in most games, especially in Epic 7. Another thing they should do to incentivize people to play is add rewards to World Arena. Smilegate has been very against this. They've been massive pushback on the fact that, hey, Surgeon plays World Arena because they have to, right? People don't want to feel forced to play World Arena. Okay, yes, but like just added like a tiny bit of little something, right? Something that people can slowly accumulate. Like maybe just like a tiny shop here and there, where it just certainly maybe play like once a day, maybe once every 2 days. That's okay, right? And I feel like all these changes at once will be really good because players won't feel bad about like losing as much because there are rank floors. So there's not this like gamble of, oh, if I queue in, I could derank, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose my points. Because I don't know, right? It's just that I feel the World Arena system is needlessly grindy and needlessly overly bearing for the average player. Those are just my thoughts on the World Arena season and the situation of World Arena. I thank you for watching. I am on Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.